So today it's time to talk to Marc from SmartRace. And SmartRace, as you may already know, is one of a number of apps that work across different platforms. And the most recent is for Scalextric. Marc is a developer in Germany. Marc, good afternoon.
Thank you for having me, Philip. Good to see you.
Well, you're welcome. And I wondered, Marc, how you got interested in slot cars.
Well, first of all, I grew up with slot cars of all kinds, mainly Carrera, as we are in Germany here. We had one ourselves, which was a Tycho, by the way, which is not Carrera. But my grandparents had one, and so I got familiar with it pretty early. But then I didn't have one myself when I grew up, got older, lost a bit of interest in it. But got back to it actually like 10, 11 years ago. I was at a friend's house and they had a Carrera digital setup, and I got into it and I started playing around with it, mainly because it had an app, from Carrera at that time. And I thought, well, that's a nice thing. You can do all sort of things, and you have an app on your tablet, on your phone, to track lap times and all sorts of stuff. But then it turned out it didn't work as I expected it to work. So I, started to create apps myself for it.
And where does your interest in app development come from?
Well, I was trained to be a web developer, which shares a lot of technology with app development, at least the way I do it. But I wasn't an app developer until I bought the Carrera track, So when I started using it and saw how bad not to say any negative things about other people's apps, but the app was not what I expected, so I created my own app. And when I started creating my own app, I knew basically nothing about app development, and I learned everything that I know now along the way.
And what would you say has been the hardest thing to get your head around?
Well, there's the technological aspect that you need to learn, like how does the track work? It communicates through Bluetooth with the device that you're having, like the tablet or smartphone. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And in the case of Carrera, there's not really a lot of documentation around. So you have to do a lot of try and error and see, does this work, doesn't it work? And I built up a lot of knowledge throughout the years. SmartRace for Carrera Digital is getting 10 years now. This year, actually, having kind of jubileum, like an anniversary for the app. So that was the one thing, the technical things, but also dealing with the users themselves, because I was a user myself and I wanted to use the app for what I wanted to do with the track. And so a lot of things developed like from my own ideas, what I had in mind, racing with my brother here at my house. And I needed to learn that people have different expectations. So when I started the app, it was a small app, it didn't have a lot of features, and then it grew bigger. And of course, people from all different kind of ages, for example, there are people using my apps who are like 14, 15 years old, up to like 75, 76. I think I had a guy who was nearly 90 years old. And so I had to adapt my style of development, how I create the user interfaces. There was also, I would say it was a steep learning curve.
Users, as you said, come up with suggestions. And how do you make the judgment of what is a good suggestion and that you're going to implement and something that you're not going to bother with?
That's a good question. I mean, sometimes it's just my personal preference. So I see an idea and I say, wait, I like that. I want to implement that. That sounds pretty cool. But apart from that, there are many suggestions which are kind of hard to judge. Will it be liked by people or not? So I have to decide from an economical standpoint, like how much effort is it going to be to implement this? And also, I mean, it has become kind of my main business to do the app stuff. So I have to think about, will it create some revenue for me? That's not my main interest, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't implement things which don't give me any money, but are still cool. But yeah, these are the things that I have to keep in mind. So in the end, I'm doing this all alone. I don't have any employees or colleagues. So that's also a limit in my time. I cannot do everything just because it's cool. I have to prioritize and see, well, what makes sense to do.
How come it's taking you 10 years to get around to Scalextric?
Yeah, well, when I started developing the app, I wasn't even planning to sell it to anyone. So I was just planning to do it for myself, for my brother, so that we could race in our living room. And then it grew bigger and bigger. And when it grew bigger and bigger, people started to notice it and asked me. I think I received the first questions like 4 or 5 years ago from people asking me, well, couldn't you do a version for Scalextric? We would love to have it. But well, it's a tough decision because there's already a third-party app available, which is the Magic app. I think it's working pretty good for most people. I think the developers is not really updating it as often, but still it's working great. And that's usually an argument against developing a SmartRace version for that system. I had the same situation with SCX, which is Scalextric in Spain. They have a digital system as well. And I thought about creating an app for that system too, but there's already a third-party app available. That made it hard, but I still did it because I have a good connection to SCX in Spain. And well, in the end, I just thought it could be cool to have SmartRace for Scalextric as well, for Scalextric Arc, because I really like the approach that I did. There are still some things which don't work as good as they could, I think. But it's a lot of fun to work with that system. So it was like a decision out of emotions, I would say.
And what's your relationship like with the manufacturers?
Well, it changed over the years. In the beginning, for example, with Carrera, I had no relationship at all. They pretty much ignored me, so to say. But when the app grew bigger and bigger and, well, people started to notice it and gave good reviews, I think I maintained like a 4.8 out of 5 stars over 10 years now, which is pretty good compared to other apps. And well, the manufacturer started to notice it too. And they contacted me some years ago. So I have a little back and forth with them since then. With SCX, it's a different relationship because I contacted them before I had the app. And they were really, really nice, really, really open. They provided me with a set with documentation, everything. They know I have a direct access to their developers. We can work together on things if there are any issues. So that's really good. With Scalextric in the UK, it's a bit different. I had a good talk with Simon Owen, who is the head of brand of Scalextric, which was nice. I met him at the German toy fair, the Spielwarenmesse in Nuremberg, last year, I think. We had good talks, and he provided me with some things, which is nice. Things are a bit slower there, I think, but still, I have everything that I need, and it's a good relationship, I would say.
And how has the beta testing process been for you for the Scalextric track?
Well, it has been quite intense. I think together with all the beta testers, including you, thank you, by the way, we fixed around like 80, 90 bugs, which is really, really good. I received a lot of high quality feedback, which is not always the case. If I did beta tests in the past for other apps, well, it depends on the people who are testing and also if they're really, let's say, motivated to give long and high quality feedback to test things again and again. And so I would say it was really, really good beta phase so far. And well, we have a good stable state, I would say, right now.
Yeah,
some things need to be fixed, but still looks good.
And just finally, Marc, what is the thing with the Scalextric version that you would love to implement, but the hardware means that you can't?
Well, I would say the biggest hurdle is still how the protocol works itself. So there's kind of this round robin style of transmitting data, transmitting information from the track to the app, which causes a delay, which I don't like. I think racing should be real time. I already gave this as a feedback to Simon Owen. Let's see what I do about it. But that's kind of the biggest thing for me, because some other things depend on it. How fast can the app react to changes, to lap times, to laps that people did? Apart from that, Carrera has a nice feature, which is the pace car. And generally speaking, the autonomous cars, the ghost cars, can change lanes on other systems, which is true for Carrera and also for SCX. They can't do that on Scalextric Arc, which is really a shame because there are other things which are working very, very good. So I think a little more in that area with the autonomous cars would be really nice.
Marc, thanks very much. Thanks for taking the time to share some of your story and also the process that you went through to create SmartRace for Scalextric.
Thank you very much, Philip.